I remember the day it all changed. I had been working at the company for a month, and I loved everything about it. Especially how my older sister had helped me get the job. She always looked out for me, or at least that's what I thought. But now as I stand in this dimly lit room, reality has finally crashed down on me. That night still haunts me. I had worked late, just as my boss asked. It wasn't unusual. He was always friendly and kept me busy. He even offered to drive me home after a long day. I thought it was a kind gesture. I trusted him. After all, he was my boss, and my sister always spoke highly of him. How could I have known what was about to happen? We were driving through the quiet streets, and I started to feel uneasy when he took a different turn, one that didn't lead to my house. The roads became unfamiliar, lined with tall trees and silence that seemed to stretch for miles. I remember looking over at him, trying to keep my voice steady as I asked, "Where are we going? I thought you were taking me home." He glanced at me, his expression unreadable, before replying, "This is your home now." I didn't understand. Not at first. Confusion knotted in my stomach as the car pulled into the driveway of a massive house, secluded from the rest of the world. Panic began to creep in, but I stayed quiet, hoping it was all a misunderstanding. "You'll be staying here with me from now on," he said, stepping out of the car. "Your sister? She owed me a lot of money. And now, you're the payment." His words felt like a punch to the chest. I couldn't breathe. My sister? How could she do this? She had brought me here, into this nightmare. I tried to refuse, tried to tell him this was wrong, but he just smiled, a cold, calculating look in his eyes. "Walk with me to the room," he ordered, and when I hesitated, he grabbed my arm, leading me inside that monstrous house. I felt trapped, my mind racing, heart pounding in my ears. I should have screamed, should have run, but I couldn't. I didn't know what to do. Every part of me was paralyzed with fear. And that night was the first time he forced himself on me. I cried, begged him to stop, but he didn't care. It was like I was nothing more than a prize he had won, and now he had every right to do whatever he wanted with me. This became my life, every single day. I'd go to work, pretend everything was fine, smile at everyone like I wasn't dying inside. And every night, I'd be dragged back to that house, his hands all over me, my body no longer my own. My sister, I couldn't even look at her. She had done this to me. I wondered if she felt guilty or if she even cared. I never got an answer. She was always so distant, so focused on her own life. I guess I was just another pawn in her game, just like he was. But then one evening, everything shifted. I had left the house after another painful night. I couldn't keep living like this. I had to get away, but I had no idea how. I found myself walking aimlessly, my body exhausted, my mind spinning with thoughts of escape. That's when I saw him. An old friend from school. Someone I hadn't seen in years. His uniform caught my attention first, a police officer. Hope flickered inside me for the first time in what felt like forever. I approached him cautiously, unsure of where to begin. When I finally told him everything, tears streaming down my face, he looked at me with a mixture of shock and anger. "Why didn't you come to me sooner?" he asked, his voice soft, filled with concern. I didn't have an answer. Shame? Fear? Maybe I didn't believe anyone could help me. But he did. Within days, he gathered enough evidence, and my sister and my boss were both arrested. The relief that washed over me was indescribable, but the scars, those will never fade. I'll always carry the weight of what happened, the betrayal, the violation. I've learned the hardest lesson of all: trust is fragile, and sometimes the ones closest to you are the ones who hurt you the most. Now, as I try to rebuild my life, I know I'll never be the same. But I survived, and that's enough for now.